All right, welcome back. Happy Monday, everybody. We're going to finish off section two today. And at the end of section two, I will talk about what your assignment is tomorrow because it will be a little bit different and it's actually a little bit longer. I apologize for that, but good news is you don't have to do anything other than watch a video. So let's get on with the end of section two, and then I will explain tomorrow a bit more to you guys. So we left off talking about the Freedom Riders and how much violence they faced. Their buses were firebombed, and they got so bad that they actually had to call in the federal marshals to escort them. And it basically proved that the South was not willing to necessarily listen to the federal government and the federal government's authority over them. And so, because of this, the ICC gets more power, and all interstate transportation is now integrated and bans segregation across all interstate transportation. So, we're going to continue on and talk about a few more things that will take place. So, there we go. The Albany movement in October of 1961 will begin a year-long series of protest marches in Albany, Georgia, but ultimately these protests will end in failure because the local police did not use violence against the protesters. And so, the fact that there was no violence, there was no real call to action by the nation, and the people of the nation were never really upset or disturbed and really didn't draw the required attention that was really necessary for the civil rights movement at this point in time. So Albany is going to be a bust just because it's not really that racially segregated. The police chief will do a good job of keeping everything in control and won't really let things get out of hand. A little later on, though, in September of 1962, James Meredith, who is a black Air Force veteran, will attempt to enroll in an all-white University of Mississippi. University of Mississippi, for most of you, will probably be better known as Ole Miss. They're the same college. But Ole Miss will turn down Meredith based on his race. So he had all the qualifications of any student to go there. However, because Ole Miss is all white and James Meredith is black, well, he will not be allowed into college. So Mississippi Governor Ross Barnett will refuse to obey a Supreme Court ruling now that ordered Ole Miss to admit James Meredith. So James Meredith will sue Ole Miss basically. The Supreme Court will say, no, you have to allow him in. He meets all the requirements. You can't deny him based on his race. But the governor of Mississippi will basically ignore the Supreme Court and do whatever he can now to prevent Meredith from getting into the college. So Meredith now at this point is allowed in eventually. However, there's going to be riots and unrest all across campus. And so as violence erupts on campus with Meredith there, President Kennedy will send in the U.S. Army to restore order, and Meredith will be admitted to Ole Miss. So there will be so much violence on campus they'll actually start shutting down classes and buildings. And so the U.S. Army is now sent in by the President of the United States to enforce the fact that Meredith is allowed to go to college there. So the Army is now there to protect Meredith and also make sure riots don't break out on campus. So this whole situation gets really, really ugly. Um, and it kind of started drawing a little bit more national attention. This would be a kind of a big win for the civil rights movement because Meredith was willing to apply to this university and basically start integrating colleges all across the South. So the biggest controversy will be taking place in Birmingham, Alabama, and civil rights leaders are going to target the most segregated city in the country, which was Birmingham, Alabama. And this was done to showcase their struggle for civil rights. So they kind of learned from the Albany campaign that, well, we're going to need something a little bit more extreme. We're going to need some more extreme reactions out of people if we want to be successful in our movement and draw attention to it. So they're going to go to the most segregated city in the United States. So Martin Luther King Jr. will organize boycotts and lead protests, which will lead to his arrest by Police Commissioner Eugene Bull Connor. So Bull is his nickname. So Eugene Connor, he's the police commissioner. He basically oversees all the police activities and makes sure the city stays safe, mainly for white people. He doesn't really care about black people a whole lot. In the description of this video, there will be a link to Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham Jail. Now, sorry, would be a good time to pause this video and watch that one. It'll fill you in a little bit more on what he was arrested for and everything that would happen. Also, talk a little brief summary of what we're about to talk about. So Martin Luther King is put in jail. He eventually gets out, has this letter, gets published, and starts calling for attention to things. And at this point, the um, Birmingham campaign isn't going very well for the civil rights movement. So, upon King's release, he will vow to continue his demonstrations and would be joined by African American children now. So the African American children will join the civil rights movement um, and participate in a huge, huge way. So all the kids are going to end up skipping school. They're all going to meet at this church, which is across from a park, and in waves, they're going to be let out of the church, and they're just going to go march down the street, protesting for their rights and things like this, carrying signs, and just being kids, singing, having fun, laughing. But Bull Connor will promptly arrest 900 children and attack the demonstrators with high pressure fire hoses, police dogs, and clubs. All of this will be captured on national television now. So, um, Bull Connor reacts. Well, he flies off the hook a little bit. We can say he arrests 900 children. They're arresting children so quickly they had to bring in school buses to load them up on. And these fire hoses that kids are being shot with, the pressure from a fire hose is enough to knock a grown man off his feet and shoot him across the ground. The fire hose will rip your clothes off your body, will tear, break skin, cause you to bleed. The police dogs are out biting children, and the police are beating the demonstrators with clubs. And you got to remember, these children are out doing this, and they're the same age you are. They're all anywhere from the age of 10 to 8 to 17. They didn't allow 18-year-olds to participate because they're considered adults, and they would get a lot worse punishment. So these kids are all anywhere from the age of 10 to 17, and this is how they're being treated by the police. And all of this is being captured on national television. And so the horrible violence that was exposed on national television will shock the nation and gain much sympathy and support for the civil rights movement. And pressure will increase on the federal government to do something now. So the public is going to be shocked and angered by how these protesters are being treated. The protesters aren't doing anything wrong. The police are just basically beating them. And so, in the end, the Birmingham marches will be successful for nonviolent protest as city facilities will be desegregated and fair hiring practices will be established all across the city of Birmingham now. And it shows that nonviolent protest will be the key to bringing about social changes. And this is where I will leave you for the notes today. There is a Google form with 4 questions I need you guys to complete tonight or today, whenever you're doing this. Tomorrow's homework. You have a 41, basically 42-minute video. It's a YouTube video. The link is on my school website. So go to my school website, click on the day and the assignment for tomorrow, which is the 28th. So click on that assignment, and the link to the YouTube video is right there. Copy and paste that in your browser. Watch that video. It's really going to hammer home what these children went through and what life was like for African Americans and African American children and how they were treated in Birmingham in 1963. So it's the Children's March video. We'd be watching the exact same video in class if, well, we were in class. And so it's going to be really crucial you guys watch that and um, think about everything and how these kids are your age and this is what they're going through just to try to get their rights, to be able to sit at a lunch counter and order food and get a burger. Um, so it will be something for you guys to watch and definitely think about. If you have any questions about the video, please let me know and have a good day. And I will be back on Wednesday with notes for section 3.